Good morning. Welcome to our special Facebook Live series called Expert Connections. We are nearly 1 month into this series of live interviews. We have heard from attorneys, accountants, business loan experts, and of course, marketing experts. My name is Julie Holton. I'm the founder and principal strategist of Connections Marketing Agency. We work with businesses of all sizes, from startups to large corporations. Today, we're going to get a little personal in our live talk, and I am so excited to have join me members of our Connections team. Alexis Neumann is a digital marketing strategist. She excels in strategy, writing, design. Katie Frankhart is one of our writers who also works for a major university in Michigan. So we'll talk about both of her roles today. And while you might not always think intern when you think expert, I'm really proud to have Joel Beeker join us this morning. He is our student strategist at Connections and talk about trial by fire right now as an intern in the marketing world. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to everyone tuning in. Stephanie, good morning. We can see that you are there. Stephanie is also on our Connections team, and I'm so glad to have you along. Give us a thumbs up if you're tuning in. Let us know you can hear us, and feel free to join in on the conversation as we go along today. So I am ready to dive right in. And Joel, I'm going to start with you. Your very first Facebook Live, and like all of us, your first pandemic. And while we laugh, we're not just working through this and advising our clients, we're also living through this. And so this tends to get pretty personal pretty quickly. Joel, you are a graduating senior at Michigan State University. So let's start with the kind of easy topic. How has MSU been? What has MSU been doing to keep students informed?
So MSU has done a fantastic job keeping us informed throughout this whole process. About in like January, February, when it kind of started to show up over in China, they were sending out emails, just keeping us informed. There's no need to panic at that moment, just because there was no cases in Michigan or the US. So they really started from the beginning. And then when things started to escalate, they were sending out 1, maybe even 2 emails a day, just informing us on the current changes, what was going on, best practices to stop the spread of it. So they've done a fantastic job. There was never really a point I didn't know what was going on with the university. They did a great job of balancing both the not enough information and too much information. I think when things escalated, they were able to provide a lot more information to keep us all updated on it.
Joel, I'm sure it's interesting for you too, because you're on the inside with us, working on crisis communications for our clients, but then also from the university standpoint, you've been on the receiving end of this crisis communications. What are some things that you noticed that MSU has done really well as far as how often they've been communicating?
Yeah, so we get when like the first couple of weeks when we were transitioning our classes and everything, when it was really escalated, the president was sending out 1 to 2 emails every day about just kind of keeping us informed on everything that was going on. They didn't use words to panic everyone, but they also didn't underestimate it at all. It was a good balance of keeping that concern that we all need, to know how serious this actually is.
Absolutely. And I mean, and it's so interesting, of course, we talk about this a lot internally on our team. Katie, I know from your aspect, you work for another university in Michigan. You work for the University of Michigan, and you do a lot of writing there. So how has this, is what Joel's saying resonating with you and what your team has been doing as far as getting messaging out?
Absolutely. The university as a whole, echoes what Joel said. They've been really great about releasing enough information to keep people updated, but also trying not to make people panic. U of M is kind of at the forefront of a lot of this stuff, simply because of the research team that we have and the Michigan medicine team. So, that has helped as far as being able to send out mass communication. They have enough details to share with people. But as far as on my end, the person that is doing a lot of the writing, again, I echo what Joel said, because it's a very fine line you have to walk with. You don't want to be tone deaf, but you also have to address it. And it's all about finding that balance, which is really tough. Something I never, ever thought I would have to think about. A lot of the stuff, obviously right now, as many of you have probably heard, U of M's commencement is canceled, which is it's a big deal for every college student, specifically at U of M. It's just this crazy tradition at the big house. And so all of these students are, understandably devastated. And there was a piece at the time.
I'm sure you can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
As a senior at MSU, absolutely. So Katie, you're right, keeping in mind students like Joel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, actually, Joel, I would love to hear your take on this. But as these students are preparing for this biggest moment of their life, all this, I was working on a mailing that was going to go out to these soon-to-be new grads and parents. And the entire tone was this, what an exciting time. You've worked so hard for this. You're walking across that stage. And I was like, you go ahead and tell that printer to stop right now. We cannot send that out. And so it's just been shifting all this language and having to put yourself in the mind frame of, we were supposed to launch a travel program. We have a career program, all that language we had to tweak of now people are looking for jobs. And again, Joel, you can speak to that a completely different way. They have different needs. And right now they may not know what those are. So we've been shifting programs and kind of treading lightly and making sure that we give enough information and we are addressing the issue and, not being tone deaf. So.
Absolutely. And Alexis, I want to bring you in on this as a writer and as someone who guides our team on writing. Words matter now more than ever.
Yeah. And, Katie, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, putting yourself in the mindset of who's going to be receiving this information that you put out there, because that's really what we want to remember, as communicators, as writers, as marketers, is that the people that are receiving this message, the people that are reading our words and hearing our words, they're human. They're people just like us. They're going through things just like we are. They have complicated emotions and concerns. And we just want to remember that they're looking for that kind of authenticity and they're looking for that reassurance while also recognizing, that this is a serious situation and, we're in kind of uncharted territory at this point. But I think really keeping in mind, like you said, putting yourself in the mindset of the person who's receiving this message and keeping in mind that human aspect. And if that is what drives your messaging and your marketing, then you're going to be doing a really good job. You're going to be on the right track if you keep that at the forefront.
And words are how we connect with people. So, and it doesn't take much to actually break a relationship that you've had for a long time or that you've been working for a long time to build and nurture and grow. And so I think especially now more than ever, when we don't know what to say, that's when we know that our word choices matter the most. I'd love to hear from our audience, the people, tuning in. If any of you, want to share, what organizations are you a part of, or what types of organizations, and how have you been dealing with wording and messaging and being able to reach out and connect, whether it's with your clients, your constituents, if you're a nonprofit, how are you connecting right now? We'd love to hear from you. And I want to come back to Joel. Joel, I imagine like all of us in every industry, every scope, this current situation that we're in has affected our lives. It has changed how we work. It has changed how we do school. So tell us more about how your life has changed, especially as it comes to classes. What has that looked like for you in your senior year?
Yeah, so all our classes are all online now. It was a fairly quick change. Within a couple days, they moved all MSU classes online. And for my major, my marketing major, a lot of my exams, quizzes, assignments are already done online. So the transition for me was fairly easy. Just the lectures, which we use Zoom now for. But I think it really impacts the hands-on majors a lot. For example, like healthcare, journalism, those people taking lab classes. I think it really impacts them a lot. But MSU overall has done a fantastic job doing this transition. I can't imagine trying to move all classes online within 2 days, So they're very, and I like the word adaptable. They adapted to the situation and were able to move all these classes online so quick that it's like we didn't even miss a beat, you know?
I think that's going to be one of the really incredible traits of your entire graduating class, Joel. And I think this says a lot about you. I mean, obviously we're biased because we work with you and we know you and we know your skill set and your abilities. But certainly I love that you use the word adaptable, because that's going to be one of the greatest skill sets that you're going to have to offer the workforce, because you've been able to transition to, as you said, almost seamlessly or virtually seamlessly to being able to do schoolwork remote. Fortunately for us, we were already a virtual agency, so it's been work as usual in a number of ways as far as our technology and things are concerned. But I imagine for a lot of students, it's really been a big change, but a change that you've taken in stride and you're able to go with. Katie, I mean, you essentially overnight had to transition to working from home, working for a university that was, I'm sure, like every university, every work office in the country, scrambling to transition to a virtual office. Tell me about what that has been like for you.
Madness, if I'm being honest, but I think everything in life can be described as madness. I think, Julie, you talked about, obviously, Connections is a virtual agency. And so I've been very used to working from home in that sense. I get home from the office, I'm able to sit down at my desk or wherever it is at my table and do that work virtually, because that's all I've ever known for Connections. Whereas working with the university, I was in the office every day, 9 to 5. And as stuff started progressing, we had caught word of, we might be sending people home. And then within a 20-minute time span, it was pack up your stuff. We don't know when you'll be back. So we were grabbing monitors and chairs and, trying to figure out what we need. And it was just, a lot of our tech people were trying to figure out how they're going to be able to set people up, when they're at home and not here. And a lot of our teams didn't have the chance to touch base in person one more time. All of a sudden, this just happened. So I think the biggest things in this change has been learning how to be flexible, especially when it comes to shifting your environment and, even work times. People's work times have been changing because they have children. And, again, we're in foreign territory with this, and it's changing the way we work in general and directly communicate. And so that, also points to us having to stay creative and stay in touch. And it's building our team in a lot of great ways, but it has been a tough and abrupt transition that I think will really affect how we work in the long run. I'm hoping in good ways, and I think in good ways, because we're learning the power of virtual communication. So.
And Alexis, jumping in on this too, I think this adaptability is important. But while all of this has been going on, everything Joel and Katie are describing, we have all, Joel and Katie included, have been continuing to work with our clients and continuing to work, when you're under the gun working on crisis communications, when you're helping businesses figure out how to suddenly reorganize, how to help them work from home, how to help them maybe even change course and offer different services. Or, we look at restaurants with their delivery services and some of our clients that are now offering entirely different, opportunities for, to stay open. All of this, as all of these adjustments are going on, we're still having to connect with clients.
Yeah. And I think making those connections, this whole work from home process and all of these transitions, it can be really isolating. And it can be, you can kind of feel like you're operating in a vacuum at times, but these connections are so important. And we are going to get through this. This is going to get better. And when we come out the other side of it, we want to make sure that those connections are intact. We want to make sure that those relationships are intact and that we've fostered that loyalty and that trust, personally and professionally. Reaching out to the people around us, to our coworkers, to our employees, to our friends and family and our clients, communicating, like we talked about already, that appropriate communication, both in how much information you're sharing and how you're sharing that information. Katie, you said the magic word earlier, creative. So creative uses of technology, we've got to think a little bit outside the box. This is a situation that is unprecedented. So we've got to figure out, what are the tools that we have at our disposal and how can we make those tools work for us in this situation, because we really want to maintain the relationships that we already have. And if we can, grow more relationships and really put ourselves out there so that we don't get lost in that feeling of being alone or being isolated or feel like we're living on an island. We really want to keep reaching out and connecting to people.
Absolutely. And Alexis, you just really drove the point home. I want to connect the dots for everyone. The reason why today we chose very purposefully to talk about personal and professional is because we are all humans. We are all living through a pandemic for the first time together. We all wish we weren't, but none of us can change that situation. We really take it to heart when we work with our clients and when we work with each other to make sure that we are connecting in ways that show our human side. We work really hard to be transparent with each other, with the people in our lives, and that includes with our clients. And I think one of the biggest lessons to learn is that transparency, no matter what kind of business you are, no matter what kind of industry you're in, that transparency helps build connections. It lets people know, hey, we're not perfectly okay right now, but we're working on it and we care about what we're doing and we're connecting with you in the best ways we can. And maybe we can work on this together. And I think that in and of itself is what will get us through, all of us through this really difficult time, because everyone's feeling it on so many levels. I mean, and some people, I saw really great post yesterday on social media where it described, some people are actually able to enjoy this season. They're able to spend more time with their kids. They're maybe not feeling some of the financial or health pressures that other people are. And that's wonderful. Some people are feeling maybe a little more pressure, maybe a little more financial pressure. Others might be feeling more of the health safety pressures. Others are essential workers and they are working on our front lines. I mean, they're all gradients, all varying degrees of what people are feeling right now. And every single level is okay to feel, and it's okay to embrace what you're feeling. If you're enjoying this season, then that's great. Like, this is your time to enjoy that time. And if you're not, if you're really on the opposite end of that spectrum, which many, many, many people are, we're here to support you. And I think that that's so important in the marketing we do as well. Marketing is not just separate. It's not just like, now we're in business mode and we're going to market our services, because I tell you what, if you're doing that right now, that is the wrong tactic. You're going to break every relationship you're trying to build. Those emails that I get go right in my trash folder, So it's, it's really balancing that personal with professional. And I can see that a lot of people in our audience are doing that as well. I asked you to chime in, and now I want to read some of these comments because these are so great. Okay, so Seth Barnhill says he's been doing, sorry, Alexis and Joel, this kind of covers up your faces. Let's put that out there. There we go. Okay, so Seth says he's been doing a lot of work to help clients figure out how they can authentically be part of the solution. You are speaking our language, Seth, and really be helpful rather than just more noise in the ad landscape. And Seth, I know Seth works at an advertising agency, creative brain there. Seth, I really love how you're working with your clients. And I love, being a part of the solution rather than just more noise. Alexis, I'm going to throw this over to you because we were just having a conversation this morning about not, with some of our own marketing for our clients, not ignoring the situation. We don't always necessarily want to make it front and center because I think people need a break. But Alexis, is it fair to say it's not just business as usual right now?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time that you don't want to scare people, right? We don't want to use, fear to, as a motivation, but you can't pretend like this isn't happening. And you can't pretend like it's not a really abrupt departure from what we're all used to. So if you try to ignore it, or you try to brush past it, or you try to pretend like, everything's fine and we're good, we're just going to keep on keeping on, then you're not being authentic. Because everyone knows that if nothing else, on a human level, on a personal level, you can't possibly be feeling that way. Even like you said, Julie, even if this is kind of a good thing for you right now, maybe it is an opportunity to spend more time with your family and, you're feeling okay about it and things are going fine. It's still different and it's still unique. And just because it is that way for you doesn't mean it's that way for your loved ones, your neighbors, your coworkers. And it's important to recognize that. You really have to be aware. And as marketers, that's our job, right? To be aware of what's going on, to be aware of how people are feeling and how they're receiving our message. And Seth, I just love that you use that word, authenticity. I feel like if connection is our, number one keyword at M Connections, authenticity is number two. It's right behind there because it's such an important part of how we communicate with other people. And so it's really important to keep that in mind.
By the way, Stephanie, shout out to you. I'm actually drinking from my favorite mug. I'm trying very hard not to connect with people right now. Schitt's Creek season finale tonight, you guys. But I will say this mug was a lot funnier when I received it before being quarantined at home. But thanks anyway, Steph. I still love it. Okay, we have another great comment, and I really want to call out this person because she has been such a huge supporter of M Connections, of our clients, of our entire Greater Lansing community. Sarah Pierce says, I admin a large community Facebook group, 517 Living Community. Make sure and look it up and join if you're in the 517 area. And she says it's been very challenging. I try to highlight the good and factual and keep my personal opinions to myself for the most part. Wow, Sarah, that's got to be, first of all, you're doing an incredible job with your group. If ever there was an example of how to foster community and to really grow community marketing on Facebook, this group is a great example of that. And I imagine that especially now, I would think personally that it maybe starts to get overwhelming or feel like overload. Maybe overwhelming is the wrong word, but you're constantly everything, all these updates, and it's hard when you admin a group or a page to not be able to step away from that. So Sarah, my hat's off to you because you're doing an incredible job with this group, and thanks for joining in this morning to talk with us. Joel, Stephanie wants to know, how is it going with finishing your classes? What is that looking like? Are you doing all tests and things online? Does it change any of your academic plans and timeline?
Yeah, so everything is online. Tests, quizzes, assignments, everything. It doesn't really change the timeline of anything. I'm still on track to graduate same time as normal. But really, the professors have been, and MSU have been really helpful throughout all this. They're even offering an option to do pass-fail now. A lot of the professors are offering free points, extra credit to help kids transition through this phase, because for a lot of them, it can be challenging. And I imagine that working online, if you've never done it before, and having everything go online, it's definitely a challenging process. So they've definitely done all that they can to help us through that. So everything's all online, same timeline, same graduation, coming up at the end of this month. So yeah.
Joel, I can't give you enough credit for everything you're going through. And you and I have had some conversations about the job market and what this is going to look like. I think, our first focus and attention for those of us who were kind of naive to the whole, I don't have a high school senior who's missing out on, in my family that's missing out on prom and all those sports milestones. And thinking about, when I thought about you as a college senior, I'm thinking like, wow, like, okay, gosh, suddenly your semester's not over because you're still doing the schoolwork, but you're not interacting with those students. You're not going to class. You're not, all those hands-on things you talked about, commencement and all of those things that are really big milestones. But then it's like the next step and looking ahead to what comes next after graduation. And, how is the university supporting you? How are you, feeling as far as, the job market?
Yeah, so it is definitely affected because of all this. Most companies, I feel like, are putting a pause on their hiring process at the moment. I know a lot of people actually, like my friends, have some internships, or they had some internships lined up for the summer, and they're all canceled now. So if they're planning on doing that, and I think that's really going to affect the sophomores and juniors that their major requires them to have an internship. So I think not only is it affecting seniors in their job search, it's also affecting the sophomores, juniors, freshmen getting these internships as well. So yeah, definitely working for M Connections at a virtual agency has allowed me to to help with this transition so much, and it's almost seamless for me, you know. And it's given me a lot of experience to be able to handle a lot of these. Like the jobs that are still looking to hire right now, it's all virtual for the most part, you know, virtual interviews, phone calls. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when this is finally over and what companies are doing. Are they even going to be looking to hire, you know, even after this is all over, because they've been impacted so much. So yeah, it's definitely a lot, with one focusing on trying to finish school and graduate right now with all the changes, and then two, the after the fact, you know, the graduation aspect and getting a job. And so yeah, it's definitely affected. MSU has definitely been really helpful. They send us a lot of resources. They send us job openings all the time. So they've definitely are aware of the situation and have been doing anything they can to help.
Absolutely. And I think I probably should have prefaced that for our viewers by saying that Joel isn't going anywhere from Connection. So it's, you know, so we're asking him about the job market, but he has a place with us. And so, you know, I don't want to make light of the situation. This is, you know, a very, you know, high anxiety time for a lot of people. And Joel, I thank you for sharing your story, because it is representative of what so many college students are going through right now. And I appreciate your openness and transparency to talk about it. Then we are very glad to have you on the team, and glad to, you know, continue, that you're going to continue with us. So in case anyone's thinking, gosh, that was really callous of her to ask him. It was kind of a lot of how I said that.
It's the overall aspect we're talking about.
Yeah, overall aspect.
Yeah, not just me.
And Joel is an integral part of our team. You know, I was commenting this morning with someone that I really think too, that, you know, normally we don't think of an intern as an expert, right? But we have so much to learn from people on all levels throughout our entire lives. And I learned so much from the interns who come and work with us at Connections, Joel included. And I know an internship it was a really critical time in my life when I was interning in TV news. And so there's so much you're just, you know, under the gun learning. And so, yeah, but there's so much that we can learn. And Joel, I think that really, when we all come out on the other side of this, I truly believe that you and others in your situation are going to have an entirely new skill set that we just haven't ever learned before. And so I think there's a lot to learn from what you're going through. So I thank you for sharing your story. I want to get back to a couple of the comments here. So let's see. Okay, so many to go through. Thank you guys for commenting. You know, Stephanie says, I imagine that colleges and universities are still recruiting, but how has that process changed? I would think it would be very hard to try and host meetings, tours, orientation at a time like this. Yeah, Stephanie. And Katie, I'm sure you have a front row seat to a lot of things that we're not even thinking about that are changing for universities.
Yeah, it has changed pretty much everything at U of M. I know that sounds dramatic, but that really is the case. I mean, like I said, commencement was canceled. Obviously all of our sports season, student orientation has been canceled. So imagine as a freshman coming, you know, you're going to the University of Michigan, and there's so much to take in, and you know, you want to be able to see the campus, and now that's all online. And I know how much that really does change the experience. While they still get to, you know, go through orientation, it's not the same as, you know, crossing the diag and, you know, seeing the bell tower and all these things that really excite them about becoming a student. And so I don't know much about recruiting, but I do know that it is majorly affected, again, with sports. There are a lot of seniors that, specifically in baseball, I know a few, this was kind of their chance to be, recruited and have the chance to have one last year of playing, and they no longer have that opportunity. And of course, as seniors moving on, they will not get that opportunity. So it has changed. I mean, again, meetings, all of our meetings are virtual, and everything other than that has been canceled. So it's a weird time. It really is. It's crazy to walk through U of M's campus, and it's just a ghost town. It's interesting to see.
As it should be, right?
Yes, that's a good thing.
Right. But yeah,
It's a very good sign.
What an odd and eerie feeling. And normally this time of year with spring here and commencement around the corner, that, yeah, it's just not what we would like to see. And hopefully we see, with all of these losses, we see some maybe new ideas, new opportunities, new gains to replace these. Nathan says overload is the understatement of the month. Nathan is the owner of Creswick Farm. So Nathan, we feel you, and we thank you for all of the work that you and your team are doing to keep us fed and to keep our supply chain moving. Also, we have a comment here from Jerry Norris. Jerry is the founder of The Fledge in Lansing. We profiled Jerry, talked with him a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we first started this series. Jerry, I can't believe it feels like it was yesterday. Seriously, it's been almost a month. Jerry says, Julie, I quote you almost every day. This is back to marketing. If it's not COVID-19, it doesn't matter. And Jerry, I stick to that. And Dave agrees. Thanks, guys, for agreeing with me. Dave says, I use that quote too. Key to success that he's having and getting national speakers with his Coping with COVID series. Dave's running a series every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, specifically focused for startup founders. And Dave's going to be featured with us on Thursday. So that's coming up on Thursday. We'll hear more from Dave and his advice for startups. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. I wanted to really emphasize those comments, not because they're applauding me. It's really not me. It's just this theme of when we're in crisis communications mode, that when you have and it can be something like a natural disaster, like a hurricane. It can be, it can be any kind of crisis. It can be a hyper local crisis. It can be a major crisis. But when that crisis is happening, nothing else matters. I mean, it's like the world stops. There's a reason why. Those of you who use social media scheduling tools, there's a reason why there is a pause button that will immediately pause all scheduled posts. And it is because when something major happens, it is not life as normal. And obviously, unfortunately, right now, it is not life as normal. So that's why, as I've been talking with Dave and with Jerry and with a lot of the startups that we work with, it's that if it's not COVID-19, it doesn't matter. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make your messaging relevant, even if it's not related. It just means that you always have to have that top of mind and focused when you're communicating with people. You don't check in at the end of the conversation, you check in at the beginning of the conversation, things like that we need to do in adjusting our own messaging. And so I want to bring this back, Alexis, because you and I have had some conversations on, over the years about working from home and work-life balance. And you guys, it seems like that balance idea has really gone out the window, because it is just, as Nathan said, overload all the time, understatement of the month. So Alexis, what are some ways that you're finding some balance, or maybe some guidance that you might have, especially when balancing personal with professional? Because let's face it, when we are working from home, there is no like punching the clock and clocking in and clocking out. You're just always on. So what are some of your tips for that balance and achieving balance?
Yeah, it's so easy for those lines to get blurred when you're not leaving the house and going to your place of work and then coming home. It's really easy to kind of feel like, well, you're just sort of on all the time. It can lead to you taking on more than you would have if you were working in the office, because it can be really hard to find that disconnect and that time to like, okay, when am I turning this off? I like what someone had said earlier about that overload. That's really, that's a really dangerous concept with working from home, because that happens too easily, and it takes some time to even notice, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So my suggestion is to determine when you're accessible versus when you're taking a break. And be really clear and upfront with everyone in your life about that. Your employees, your coworkers, your clients, your friends, your family, yourself. Set those times for, between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. I am on. I am here, I'm present, I'm working, I'm connected. And between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., I'm off. I'm taking time for me, I'm taking time for my family, I'm taking time for Netflix, whatever that is, whatever that break looks like for you. Take that time and be consistent about it. I know it feels kind of hard to set those boundaries, especially when we're working from home and it feels like, well, I should just be available all the time. What else am I going to do? I'm just going to sit on my couch. that's okay. And that's good. And you should take that time. You should take that mental health break. And if you can be consistent about it, it's actually going to be more reassuring for the people who need you, whether that's on a professional level or a personal level, because they know that when 7 a.m. hits, not only are you there and you're present, but you're 100% engaged and you're fully there with them and you're fully there supporting them because you've taken the time for yourself and to disconnect. I think having those physical disconnects too, this room is my office. This room is where I create and I do fun things that are just for me. This space is where I hang out with my family or, by myself, or I take time. Having those places can make it a little bit easier for us mentally to turn off when I feel like, okay, this is my office here. At the end of the day, I leave this room, I close the door, and we close the door on work and we close the door on the office. And then I, can sit with my husband or my dogs and just kind of relax. And I think that can give us that physical distance that we get when we work in an office, and we can lose a little bit when we work from home.
That, Katie, I see you nodding, and I know that really resonates with you because you wear a couple of hats. You work for the University of Michigan. You are one of our amazing and talented writers with Connections. I'm assuming that somewhere in there you have a personal life and you have other things that you do, other hobbies. What has worked for you? What has helped you create, or even a work in progress at creating kind of some separation and some distance?
Yeah, it's fitting because a lot of it does echo what, Alexis said, even when it's finding balance between full-time contractor and, as Julie said, personal, and I freelance, so it's a lot. And in a time that, again, we keep using the word, it's unprecedented. It's something that nobody, even our employers, have ever gone through. And so my key has been transparency. I let both between Julie and my U of M employer say, trying to stay in touch as much as I can. And, if I have a meeting scheduled and I need to kind of rearrange, I've just tried to make sure that I communicate with our leaders as much as possible. And I know that the leaders in my life, including Julie, have been very important in helping me find that balance because they give me like healthy guidance. And then also, let me know what you need from me. And then it's another reminder that our employers are humans too. So that very much plays into the balance. And I want to make sure, while I'm being transparent and communicating, I don't want to overload or, confuse or cause chaos, so to speak. So it is finding a balance in a time where it's hard to know what is considered chaos and what's not considered chaos. So that's been a big thing for me. And I also echo what Alexis says about having a space where you work and where you do other things. And I live in an apartment that is very small. So when this happened, I am now in our guest bedroom, and this is my U of M workroom. And then when it's time for me to do Connection stuff, I'll decide, how about I go into the living room, or, how about I go to the desk in the master bedroom? And I found that by moving environments, it's easier for me to kind of switch that mindset and get into my projects for whoever it is. So
I love that, Katie. One of the things that I think both of you have really touched on is just kind of this kind of mental health aspect of all of this, and being true to whatever it is that we are needing in that moment. Because I know that I find myself like, there are some moments when I'm like, I'm on it. Like, I'm just like running 24/7. I'm in full crisis comms mode and doing these Facebook Lives. And it's like, okay, awesome. Like, life is normal. And then I power down or I get tired and I'm like, wait a minute, life is not normal. And so I think we also need to be able to recognize like that how we feel and what we need might change from moment to moment. And that's one thing that with our team, I know all of us, all of you are so good at doing, is embracing people wherever they are. If they need space, we've had team members take a couple days, or dive in and work, double time because that's what they needed in that moment. And so I think that's one thing that that no matter what industry we're talking about right now, whether we're calling on friends to check in on them or family or coworkers, just recognizing that space and giving people that space to be wherever they are, which might sound a little frou-frou, but I really think that that's what really helps us is just honoring whatever you're feeling, however you're feeling. And like Alexis, like you said, there might be times when, when we have to tell a client or someone we're working with that, hey, you know what? like, I will be back on at 7 a.m. tomorrow, or 8, whatever that time frame is, or I can get with you in about 2 hours, and just honoring where you are so that when you show up, you've had time to hit reset. You've had to, you've been able to nurture whatever it is that you need that's going to help you to perform better in the long run.
Yeah, I think, it's really easy, both in the real world and in quarantine world, to tell when someone's not 100% engaged with you or what you're saying or your issues. It's kind of easy to tell when they're distracted or exhausted. And if you can take that time to say, I need the day, I need the evening, this is this is where my boundary is, so that when I show up, I can be fully there with you. That's going to inspire trust, and people are going to feel like, okay, no matter what, even if it takes a little longer, I have to wait an hour to hear back, or, there's a bit of a delay, that when this person is there for me, they are there for me. They are with me. They hear me. I am their full focus. I get their full attention. And you're really serving your clients and your employees and your friends and your family so much better than if you just said, okay, anytime, anywhere, whatever you need from me, I'll do it if I can. The more that you can give fully, both to yourself and to the people around you, the better off you're going to be. But it starts with giving to yourself and making sure that you're taking care of yourself too.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay. I'm gonna, this is your quick, warning, guys. I'm going to go around and ask you for one final, if you had one piece of advice to give our audience today. But first, audience, I'm going to ask you, if you have something you want to share with us or with the rest of our audience, what is one thing that's helping you get through this? Maybe it's related to your messaging, to your writing. Maybe it's related to marketing. Maybe it's related to building relationships and networking virtually. Maybe it's just something you're using for your own mental health. We would love to hear from you. And while we wait for the audience to respond, I'm going to quickly kind of go around our circle here. Alexis, let's start with you. If you have just one takeaway, one piece of advice for those who are listening, what stands out to you right now?
I would say, remember the human. Remember the person at the other end of whatever it is you're doing or saying. Remember that you on one side are also human and feeling things and experiencing things, and the person that you're talking to or working with or providing information to, they are human. And if you can remember that human and focus on the connection, then you're really going to do well. That authenticity is going to shine through.
I love that, Alexis. Absolutely. Joel, what's one thing that you want people to take away?
So I would bring it back to the be adaptable, in any situation in your life, professional, personal. I think, we all face change, especially right now, and being adaptable will help us get through this and come out on the other side.
Absolutely. Katie, what about you? What's one takeaway that you have for our audience?
It's funny because it actually ties Alexis and Joel's together. And I know this sounds like it's coming out of a children's storybook, but
perfect.
Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be kind with your patients, in the sense of, I know it's so hard for me to start doing work when I'm just worked up. I'm anxious. I don't, I'm waiting to hear back from this person and I can't seem to finish that project. And I just kind of remind myself that I need to be kind to myself and everyone around me. And I think part of adapting is also, again, being kind, and vice versa. So I think that's been my biggest carry through for me at this point, is just learning to be kind.
Kindness. So. I love that, especially because at 3:00 today, not that you planned this self-promotion, but at 3:00 today, I'm going to talk with Bob Hoffman, who is the founder of Epiphany Now, which is an organization, a nonprofit that is all about passing kindness forward. So that's coming up at 3. A lot of really cool things happening in the community. But yes, Katie, I completely agree. Kindness is so important. We've talked a lot about giving grace to ourselves, to other people throughout these lives. And I think kindness really nails it. Okay, so we've heard from Nathan. Nathan's biggest piece of advice: long walks.
I agree, Nathan. I agree with all of those O's in there too. Very long walks.
All of you. And Nathan, I worked outside yesterday. I didn't even look at the temperature. I wrapped up in a blanket. I had on a sweatshirt and a vest, and I just took my office outside on my back deck. And nature, it's amazing what fresh air and some sunshine will do for us. So long walks for sure. Stephanie says self-care is always vital, but especially now. Absolutely. I really love that, Steph. And Jerry has chimed in, and Jerry says, see if it all fits up there. He says, I am trying to catch as many people as possible, being loving and compassionate. We are surrounded by kindness and people acting with such compassion. Our community is amazing. Yes, it is. And I tell myself, thank you for everything I see. This keeps me motivated and sane. I love that, Jerry, so much. I know we had Joyce Martyr on a couple of weeks ago talking about how to find gratitude during the season. And it might be something as simple as being grateful for, the floor underneath our feet and the roof over our heads, the food in our bellies. It's amazing how when we stop to think about all that we have to be grateful for, how much it can really change our mindset and really help us to focus on the bigger picture of things. And Jerry, you're doing some really amazing things at the Fledge. So thank you for all you're doing in the community to support kindness, as Katie said. The adaptability that you all are showing is incredible, as Joel said, and Alexis as well, talking about showing the human aspects. If there's one thing that I would pass on, it is so many, because these are so great, you guys. But I would say perhaps it's just the transparency of it, which really touches on what Joel and Katie and Alexis all said. But just recognizing that, as Alexis said, we are human, and having these open conversations, recognizing, being transparent with yourself, recognizing where you are, what you need, what you're able to give, what you need from other people, I think is just as important personally as it is professionally, because that's certainly something that resonates in marketing as well. So Katie, Alexis, Joel, thank you so much for joining me for this Facebook Live today. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. This is just really another incredible conversation, and we are just so grateful to be bringing you this series. We have 2 more live interviews coming up today at 1 o'clock. We're going to be talking with an attorney at Foster Swift about the CARES Act. Michael Zart is going to be talking through just a number of levels of the programs that are out there. He's going to talk through the CARES Act and how it impacts small businesses, what you need to know. So get your questions ready, and then he's going to join us for that at 1 o'clock. So coming up in just about an hour. And then, as I mentioned, at 3 o'clock today, Bob Hoffman from Epiphany Now will join us to talk about some exciting changes, actually, some good news in the midst of the season that we're in, and talking about how his organization is going to be honoring youth in our community for passing it forward. So that's all coming up later today. You can catch all of our live interviews right here on our Facebook page. Just click on the videos tab. You can also watch our videos or read the transcripts of these videos on our website at mconnections.com. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I will see you back here today at 1 o'clock.